Hello and welcome back once again to the Dual Screens podcast, the world's number one indie dev interview show, probably on the internet and of all reality. Joining me this week, I'm very excited about this one, is Alex Dracott, the creative director over at Ironwood Studios, developer of Pacific Drive, a run-based first-person driving survival game. Alex, welcome to the show. How's it going, man?
That's going pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must say, I am not the biggest fan of driving games. I fear them like I fear puzzle games.
Huh.
I don't drive in real life. I have no license. I live in Queens, New York, and the train is literally a 2 minute walk from my house. So I avoid them like the plague, driving games. But your game, for some reason, is pulling me to a genre, to a gameplay type that I avoid at all costs. So why don't you tell us like the elevator pitch of what Pacific Drive is and why I want to play it so damn much.
Okay, I'll try to get the second part right. Pacific Drive, it's a run-based driving survival game
Mhm.
where you find yourself stuck in this weird, mysterious exclusion zone out in the Pacific Northwest, and you end up finding this old station wagon. And it really just becomes this game about you and this station wagon trying to survive out in the zone. So it is run based. You have this garage and you're taking these trips out into the zone, doing a bunch of survival game stuff, gathering resources, unlocking new parts and new recipes. But because it is run based, there is real risk while you're out there. And when you come back, if you make it back successfully, you get to like upgrade your car and repeat it. If you don't make it back successfully, you still come back to the garage. You have a chance to go and like recover your stuff. But we take a lot of the traditional run based mechanics, or sorry, not traditional run based mechanics, traditional survival game mechanics, and we turn it from the player, which is normally like hunger and thirst and stuff like that, and we focus it on the car.
Hmm.
And that's definitely, from an under the hood mechanic standpoint, that is a very special thing for us. And just the car in general, we want players to build that relationship up with this old vehicle as you slowly turn it into something of a weird science, cool station wagon.
Yeah, some shots of this game has like a not like a Mad Max kind of feel. Like it's all like just rigged and like there's all this stuff coming out of it. It looks very like I don't know. It gives me like a certain vibe. But what is out there that's preventing you from coming back on your runs? What does failure look like in this game?
So
What's lurking
the
in the
the zone
shadows?
is the zone is definitely dangerous. So the player, you have
Mhm.
health. The way the game works is that your car is genuinely protecting you while it's got parts and structural defenses, right? And all of these different things can make that more difficult, which I'll talk about in a sec. But when the car is leaving you in a vulnerable state, then you can take damage, you can die. Obviously, if you get out of your car and you choose to walk around on foot, that can also happen. But it creates this really good symbiotic relationship where you want to take care of the car because it takes care of you. Um, as for the dangers themselves, we aside from some common sense ones like jumping off of a way too high ledge, uh, there's a lot of radiation out there, and there's a lot of strange anomalies in the zone.
Ah.
And we could definitely dive into specific details if you want, but the almost all of our hazards that you're dealing with as a player are these different anomalies. Um, and learning about what they do, and then kind of constructing your car to help deal with the challenges that they create are a major part of the game.
Now, do are certain challenges are certain upgrades and mechanics better for certain challenges that you may come across? Are you constantly like changing the build of the car based on what's happening around you? How does that all work together with the gameplay?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of things that are just, legitimately, hey, I can get a bigger trunk. Like that is
Hmm.
just more useful, right? It can store more stuff, right? But a lot of what we want to do is we want to make players make meaningful decisions about what they put on their car, right? Do you want to equip the car with some lead-plated panels so that you can deal with radiation a little bit better? Like that's cool, but radiation is not the only thing that's out there, and you may decide you want to swap out different things. And we've got, just a ton of different parts on the car that you can modify. Like we're not like nuts and bolts level of customization for sure, but
Hmm.
we really wanted to, satisfy that mechanic fantasy, right? Where the headlight, bumpers, wheels, panels, doors, all these different attachments you can change on. That's not counting like the little cosmetic bits and bobs. So we definitely want players to make it their car, right?
Yeah. Is it like is it roguelike in a sense, the gameplay? Because you mentioned run based, and I the term roguelike comes to my brain almost immediately. Is that the case with Pacific Drive?
Yeah, so we are, if anything, like mechanically influenced by roguelite.
Hmm.
So, you are always you, the car is always the car, right? So if you make it back from the run, it's the same car that you left the run with, all the same parts, all the same resources, and you want to do that, right? You want to get these parts because all the persistent upgrades, new recipes, new garage stations, that all happens back at your garage.
Hmm.
And then if you die, your car comes back in a much worse for wear state. And then we've got some mechanics to help get you back on your feet.
But there is like some level of progression, I imagine, if you do a game over. So do some things carry over, or you just is it like a clean slate? Like,
No, no, no. That's what I meant. Like when
yeah,
if you die, you do come back to the garage still. You lose
okay,
everything you had on you, but your
all
car
right.
is still going to run. It's definitely not going to run as well, right? We strip parts off. You lost the stuff in your trunk. Like there is a good deal of loss that happens. But your garage is the same garage when you set out. Um, yeah.
That's very neat. Yeah, because I was wondering, like, because my biggest gripe with roguelites or roguelites in general is what how do you make the game still enjoyable after a very long run without
hmm
losing all that progression, all those hours of work? Like, what do I get to keep once I fail? And like, how can I use what I have to make the subsequent run even better in a sense? And I think this is a good system. When the car is like still your car, it's a little stripped down, it's a little worse for wear, but you're not totally screwed in a
Maybe
sense.
picked up a couple of weird quirks after stuff like that. Yeah, we've got a system in the game that kind of emulates weird stuff old cars do.
Such
Uh,
as I'm dying to hear this.
so yeah, your car has a chance under certain conditions to pick up a quirk, and those quirks are a weird behavior. Maybe when you toggle the courtesy light, your right door opens. Or when you turn left, your horn
What?
honks. And you have to diagnose that so that you can fix it. So there is this additional layer of learning about the traits of your car. Maybe not all of them are negative. Maybe there's a little bit of a positive side to one that you decide, you know what? That's a thing my car now does. I'm not going to take the time to fix it. I'm not going to diagnose it. It's part of my car. Uh, but that's a whole system that's in the game. Like when we were starting on the project, we we actually built this big spreadsheet of like weird stories people would tell us about their car. Uh, and I've looked back at the list, and most of them can actually happen, and it's randomized too. Like we don't know, we picked a lot of the conditions that can cause them and what can happen, but how they're mix and match together, it's proving to be an endless surprise even for us as we're playing the game.
Would your car honking uncontrollably like that? Like, would it attract something to you in a sense? What would be the detriment of having your car honking
There's,
when
I
you
think
wouldn't want it to honk?
there's definitely consequences, right? Like, my door's open. That means if I smash a tree, you may tear off the door. That may not be something you want. Because your door helps, it's part of like the structural, defense part of the car. So there is the, storytelling aspect, but there are actually, gameplay consequences, especially when you start to mess with like, the performance of the car, which, we don't want to make your car unplayable. That's
Mhm.
important, but the character building I think is definitely an important part there.
Let's get into because from the get-go you mentioned this whole thing about the survival aspect, which typically hunger or thirst in a person is being applied to the car. The car is taking on that role in a sense. Like that's like your main maintenance, the thing to take care of. Got to give it gas. How does go into that system for the car?
Yeah, so like good survival games, they have you juggling plates, right?
Mm,
And it's, oh, okay, my tools got durability, and oh, this ran out, but now a storm is here, and now I'm hungry, and I forgot to stock food because I was busy getting wood for the fire. Like, it's that partnered with really fun discovery of mechanics and progression that makes a survival game a lot of fun, right? For us with the car, it has gas, it has all these different parts that can break, they can get status effects, like a tire can become flat, and
oh
that
yeah.
changes how the car handles. Your car's battery is important because you may almost definitely want headlights that work at night, because we have this full time a day system, and that actually matters. And if you're out of battery, well, you're going to be driving a little bit in the dark, and in our world, that could mean some dangerous things. So it's very much like it was actually really straightforward on paper to like start to plot out like the similarities, right? Okay,
Mm,
fuel is always going down as you drive. Cool.
mm.
Like, the car has health. These parts can all of a sudden pop up with a surprise resource need, right? I have a flat tire. I need to get a, kit to fix it, right? Um, but it is, it's a very new thing. So there's a lot of, testing and figuring out what makes sense, what works, what is too egregious, not egregious enough. Those kind of iterations that you naturally get over game dev.
What does a typical run look like a start to finish?
So it's gonna start in the garage.
Hmm.
You're going to, probably coming off of the previous run, do any kind of maintenance work on your car, maybe fix up a couple panels, maybe craft that new thing to stick on the roof that you've been wanting for a while. You're gonna walk over to your planning screen and actually look at all the different options that you can take and whether you are trying to get a specific resource or you are trying to progress the main story, or maybe go and just explore. There's, different motivations the player's going to have to take them in different areas. Um, so you're gonna look at the options available, probably make a bit of an informed decision, and then head out from the garage. And the way our routes are structured are a series of large connected maps. Um, where you're gonna drive up in the garage, get a quick load screen, pop into the next map, and your little mini map in the car is gonna tell you where the exit of that map is, and then it's up to you to decide, all right, am I gonna beeline out of there to try and get through to the next stage? Do I want to take my time and explore? I'm consuming fuel while I'm driving around. The car is taking damage, so it's not risk free. And as you're progressing between these maps, you're continually making little decisions, right? Like, oh, well, I could go left, but that place is super unstable right now, so that it's really going to be dangerous. So maybe I'm going to go right, or maybe I want to go deal with the danger because I know that that's going to stop by the swamp. Maybe I really want some resources there. Um, and yeah, and then while you're doing this, you're kind of collecting the energy and the resource required for you to escape. We have these things called anchors, which are don't want to dive too deep on why they're important from a perspective on the lore, but they're what charges your car's ability to summon a portal and get home. Um,
Oh,
and and as you've yeah, there's some very fancy tech in your car,
yeah.
and when you've done that, when you have enough energy to escape, then you can pick where you want the portal to appear. It's got to be, a little bit far enough away from you, and then at the same time, this big storm is going to come because summoning this exit portal is going to destabilize the whole area. And at this point now, you're racing to the exit. You've got to get to this portal. If you get through the portal, you're back at your garage, able to continue. You didn't make it, then you're back at your garage anyway, but starting to figure out how I can gear up and do it again.
That's a good segue for what is going on in this world and the lore. Because you mentioned now there's radiation, there's dangers out there, now there's portals. What is the backdrop for this world? What's happened without giving away like any major, plot threads or spoilers, obviously. Um, what's the setup for this world that we're inhabiting and trying to survive?
So the Olympic exclusion zone, it's been around for a while.
Mhm.
Good 50, 60 years. And the general public knows it exists, right? People are aware that there are these giant walls that were set up all around the Olympic Peninsula. They don't really know what's going on inside. There's stories, there's a couple rumors floating around. But the actual thing that was happening inside very much a secret.
Hmm.
And there was an organization linked to things inside. We've mentioned them in trailers, which is Arda, but we haven't talked too much about what their history is yet. And I really can't give too much away, but
Hmm.
um, you find yourself on the inside of this wall, and you get caught up in a bit of a mystery. And that mystery plus trying to figure out a way to get out is what's leading you deeper and deeper into the zone on these different runs. Um, we started working on the game and we were like, all right, we can tell the story of the zone. But what we realized really quickly is it's much better to tell a story of the zone because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of world building, a lot of work that we've done to flesh out, what is it like for people that were in the zone when the walls were built, right after the walls were built. And those are all things that people can go and discover and learn about. Um, but focusing on this one specific mystery, this little, very Pacific Northwest style bit of an urban legend has been our focal point for the narrative, which is great. Um, and yeah, that's very much the kind of setup and what players are going to be jumping into.
How much of the story is told to you versus like looking for little tidbits and clues on your own as you're just going through several runs throughout the game?
So I'd say our primary storytelling is kind of split across three different major methods. There's, I think, a numerous additional layers that are true. So the first is the main story. There are folks that are going to talk to you over the radio,
Hmm.
and that is, we heard some of them in our story trailer recently. That is very, very much like, helping leading you through like the main game. Um, there is visual world building, which we've, I think done a pretty good job at, like making an interesting and compelling space. And just by looking around and experiencing the world, both, big like ancient concrete structures, but also some of the more weirder anomalous things that are going on, you start to get a bit of a picture of what's been happening. And then the last is just text that you can discover, so you can scan things in the game and unlock like a little bit of a lore tidbit about them. And then there's other, things that you can discover that have, dedicated diaries and pretty standard, like read through, oh, I can hear a bit more about this because I found a notepad from a scientist or something.
Are there like side things you can do, like to go off of the main quest? Like, okay, I want to pursue this little plot thread that's going in this direction, or is it always just pushing you towards that main narrative?
So you always have a choice as to what you want to do.
Hmm.
The main story is always a progression option for you. Um, but you can always, like I was saying before, set your own goals of wanting more resources, wanting to go and see if you can track down more of these little side narrative tidbits, or just get parts. That's always a choice. We're never going to say no, you can't go and drive more in the zone.
Hmm. So we've gone through some gameplay bits, now some of the world building bits, and now I have to ask, where did this idea come from? Because I was doing a little bit of a Googling, and some of your folks at the studio have like Call of Duty, Legend of Zelda background on their resumes. And I'm trying to draw the thread between that background and what this game you're describing to me is. So what was
So
the genesis of this entire project?
So it definitely, I think, it evolved a little bit over time for sure, but it was a early idea that kind of came from some of my own personal interests. So I grew up driving station wagons in Portland, like that's where I'm from. And I'd go on trips with friends and go camping and stuff like that. And when I got back to Seattle, after living in San Diego for a bit and working down there, I got a little bit more back into driving around, and I started driving around to these old abandoned like industrial sites out in the
Mhm.
woods, and I would go there and do photography. And it was doing these trips that kind of got me thinking about a connection between narrative and car and that relationship. And so when we set out very, very early on, it was like the earliest prototype was just like get in the car and drive and like what does it feel like? What does it feel like with the fog and the rain? And then very quickly we started adding interactions, and there was a lot of organic, the right word is, uh, uh, I guess like yeah, overlap I would say with the survival mechanics, right? So
Hmm.
um you know, we started adding fuel, right? That was the first one. I think the first prototype was don't run out of fuel.
Okay,
That had
simple
like an
enough.
actual gameplay goal. It was like drive to the end of the map, don't run out of fuel. You took damage outside of your car, you could hit a button to like get out of your car and run around. This is like really early, like completely gray box like testing. Um, and that evolved further and further, and then eventually we eventually started testing bigger and bigger maps, and we realized that, you know what, like we wanted a place to rest. Like that became like a need that the game was telling us. It's like we need
Hmm.
this place to just chill. We're doing a great job making this crazy world, but we needed a place to take a breather. And that was when the garage came from. And at that point, we started testing like going out from the garage and coming back, going out from the garage, coming back. And, you know, also the idea of consequences, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, you know, die, you lose your parts or whatever. And that helped reinforce a major part of the game, which is driving carefully, right? We do everything we can to obfuscate what you're going through, right? We change the map, we change what the anomalies are, we change where the resources are. We want you to not know what's around the bend. Um, and I think at that point is pretty similar to the like at its core the game that you know folks are going to play you know early next year. It's obviously a bajillion improvements have since been made to everything from how you interact with the car to what's customized and what the mechanics are, and what's out there. But that was I think the like the earliest version.
Can I just say offhand, like, thank God for your delay because there's so much on my plate this year. And I was like, whew, all right. I can give this the proper time to like it can go in the back burner. I can worry about it when the time comes. Because when I
I
first
think
saw this thing,
yeah,
I was sold immediately.
that's awesome. I'm stoked. The general reaction has been overwhelmingly positive, and we're so happy. Like, it's such a weird idea. Like, it was like a, all right, you know, it's a weird station wagon in the woods. Like, I think it's like a hit or a miss, but people are just all over it. Like, they're excited about the station wagon. They're excited about Malcolm, the little bobblehead that we've shown off a bunch, and they haven't even seen the other bobbleheads yet. Um, so we're stoked. It's been fantastic, and like we're just at PAX, and PAX was just another chance because we were at PAX East and we're just at PAX West and having people out there playing the game, coming away with their own stories. It was pretty phenomenal.
And you guys had a pretty big like you debuted on the PlayStation. I think was it a showcase or a state of play when you first showed this thing off? Am I like
Yeah,
last
we
year?
were in a state of play, which is really
Hmm.
exciting. We're super stoked to be bringing it to the PlayStation. The controller is awesome. Like I love the Dual Sense. There's get to play with all the fun haptics and stuff like that. And you know, it was being able to like feel weird bumps and stuff in the car as you're driving along is that's just great.
How did that conversation go about between like how did you guys get to that point to include your game? And it's also I think PS5 is a console exclusive, correct? Or is it launching?
Yeah, so we're coming to PS5 and then we're coming to Steam and the Epic Game Store.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, you know, on that end, I think we had a chance to talk with them about the game, and there were some fans like yourself of you know driving games and the idea of a non-normal driving game,
Yeah.
right? And to your point, like I play a sizable chunk of games, but I have my racing games that I am a fan of. Like I play Mario Kart, I'll play Burnout, like I've played Forza, but and then obviously games with cars in them, right? Like Uncharted and Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. But it's very different because most of those games are we're going to design 100 cars. They've all
Hmm.
got to feel unique, and this is design one car that can feel unique in 100 different ways, but it's still got to be the same car. And so balancing and getting the right amount of, well, okay, mud should feel like mud, but it also shouldn't be like a true simulation. Should piss you off while you're driving, but you should
Right.
want the mud tires. You should want the off-road tires because that's a cool upgrade to get in the game. It's been a very fascinating thing.
What's more challenging like cuz you want it to handle like a good driving game, but there's also the survival elements too. What's been the harder of the two to manage or to have the right balance between both, that you're doing them both properly and that they're not like in a way overshadowing or taking away from the other element in the gameplay.
I think it'd be hard pressed to pick I mean, the car inherently affects all things,
Hmm.
right? Like it is so central to the game that whether just because it's a resource or you're crafting doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to affect, your car because it may be where is this resource? Where is the car driving that you can see the resource? Like everything gets filtered by how it's connected to other stuff. Like you have this big scrapper that you can tear apart old junk doors that you find out in the zone and get metal to build new doors. You can even pop off those doors and just stick them on your car, because that's 100% accurate in how cars work. But there's definitely been a handful of things that are always challenging, right? Like any kind of balance around one central thing. Like you think about like Assassin's Creed climbing, right? Like it is so central that everything connects to it, and it's a feel thing that's got to that's it's going to be challenging to tweak and tune. But yeah, I mean the car, the handling, how we author the world that you're in relative to being in a car all the time, that's a big thing. Um, and then what are the anomalies, right? Like that was this huge challenge, and I think we lucked out because anomalies can really be a lot of anything, but we had to really start with, well, what is fun in a car, right? And also maybe fun when you're not in a car. Like, is it a thing that chases you? Is it just a big blob of damage? What is the balance of that? How many should we have of one versus the other? Um, and our game doesn't have our game has abilities that you can put on the car. You can get a boost, and then you can stick it on the front of the car and go fast backwards, or on the back of the car go fast forwards. And we give you that choice. We don't care. You do what you feels right to you. Um, but we don't have guns. Like you're not going to stick a 50 cal machine gun on your car. We're
Right.
not inherently a shooting game, and figuring out what are the abilities that we wanted to engage with those anomalies, whether it's evasion based or escape or defensive, and then what those anomalies could be has been a huge process of iteration. The team has just done an incredible job getting there, and we're really pleased with the slate of different hazards and anomalies that we've got, shipping in the game.
I think it's the horror elements that appeal the most to me because there is a
Thing.
little bit of fear that I think is like the undercurrent of as you're maneuvering and navigating this space, there's a threat of death and violence out there. I think that's
There,
why I am so drawn to this particular kind of game.
it's a fascinating thing too because I inherently uh I'm pretty comfortable in the woods. I grew up in the Northwest. Like this is where I hang out. Like I've gone out for walks in the woods at night, in areas that I know are reasonably safe, and I'm pretty comfortable. Still creep me out sometimes, but to me, the game we did not set out intentionally creating something that is scary, but the nature of the tone and mood of the project has created that reaction of quite a few people where for completely normal and natural reasons, are maybe a little uncomfortable driving around in a completely abandoned part of the Northwest by yourself at night in this car. And we may have leaned into it a little bit since we started getting that feedback, and there's some surprises out there, but we're not like a traditional horror game. Like we didn't set out to be like, all right, Resident Evil but with a car or something like that.
Right.
Um, we're definitely, we focused on setting up this mood, setting up this tone, and I think the mystery and the ambiguity of not knowing like I was saying before, not knowing what's around the corner has helped reinforce that. But it's been very interesting watching people like check it out, and we know it's in the game, so we'll see this thing and be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. And of course, people are like, oh no, I be really careful around it, throw it, like poke it with the stick, see what happens, right? And that's perfect. We love seeing that kind of reaction as people learn more about what's actually there.
It has like a Stephen King vibe of it. I gotta say, like the idea of again the traveling the lone road, and there's this, you know, shadowy thing going on behind these walls in this zone. It has that sort of like that energy, that like psychological horror, which again, I think I wouldn't expect from a game like this. But yet here it is, and it's for me one of the main driving forces to want to pick it up and just give it all of my time and energy, which is
Want to see
nuts.
what's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very, very excited. I think for me personally, seeing what people, come what adventures they have with their car, right? Like early on we were doing, we were considering really scripted like story building moments with the car, right? Like there's a rubble and you gotta like hold F to take piece off car of rubble or something like that. It's funny because that's actually like it is like hold F to detach part. But like you get what I'm talking about. We're talking about like a very scripted, now is
Right,
the very linear moment to
right.
emphasize
The
something with the
hand-holdy
car.
part, yeah.
And that wasn't what people were getting attached to. People were getting attached to, I forgot to put on my handbrake and the car rolled down a hill and it's raining and stormy and I've got to chase after it. And that's the adventure that they
Oh
had.
my God, I love it so much.
And that's what we've been building around are these different systems and mechanics, right? You can it reinforced a lot of the decisions that we made. Like early on in those prototypes, you could change the parts of the car with like a menu. It was just like pull up a customization menu, scroll to the part of the car you want to change, and then change it.
Mhm.
And very much led by Seth, our game director, who's a good sense for these things. Like, oh, you should do it with your hands, like 100%, because it's your hands doing the work. Like you feel like you put the panel on, and we take that to a pretty good extreme where if you're holding a new door and there's an old door in your car, you cannot hold F to hot swap them. You have to put the new one down, pick the new one up, pick the old one up, put that on the ground, pick the new one, and then install it. And that's building
I'm not
relationships,
sure if
right?
I hate or love that. I can go either way because I like the realism and the groundedness of it all. And again, it adds to a little bit of the fear because like, okay, it's all you. It's not
Yeah,
behind the menu somewhere. It's you in this world living as if you were in the actual game.
yeah, and it's we like I was saying, we wanted the fantasy. We didn't want to be tedious, right?
Mhm.
So like it takes a couple of seconds to do that what you just described, right? It's a very quick process. There's
Right.
no, all right, time to undo the 50 specific bolts that keep this door in
Yeah.
place. Like you can literally pop the hood and pull out the engine, and that's I'm sure not accurate for at least what they charge me for
That's
labor when
engineering.
I
Yeah, that's how that
yeah,
works.
yeah, that's accurate. Definitely not vastly oversimplifying a very complicated thing. But like that's what I'm getting at, right? Like we want you to be able to say I swapped out the engine and to actually have done the work of swapping it out, but to not have had the technical knowledge requirement needed to swap out an engine. We wanted to be accessible in that way. And I think that's for me, like when I think about car stories that I like, I think about like watching like Grand Tour and Top Gear adventures. Like they have good times with these cars, and that was what got me involved in that stuff, right? Was um the idea that like, oh, someone else can have this adventure and feel the way that, maybe I felt when I was driving down a road alongside a lake and started thinking about ideas like this. I think it's a compelling thing. Yeah.
What's been the most surprising thing to you in putting this amazing idea together? What's been like taken aback?
Uh, Most surprising thing. I'll give you two answers.
Okay.
The most surprising thing about the game itself, I think, was very much the nature of these stories and the relationships that are starting to come out of it. Like, it was our goal, so it's a good surprise,
Mhm.
but I think something I didn't give enough credit for when I was initially thinking about it is I was seeing it through my relationship with a car, right? Which is unique to me. But people get invested in cars and honestly all kinds of stuff, whether you're building custom PCs or, baking a cake or whatever, people attach to different parts of it, right? Whether it is the aesthetics of a car or what's under the hood or just the adventures that you've been on, people get attached to cars for different reasons. And we're starting to see ways of that attachment appear, or variety of that attachment appear in people that are playing the game. Like we've had folks play the game and be like, I just got super involved in like I really want to take care of this door. Like this door is awesome. I found it out in the zone. The rest of the car can we forget about it, but I'm gonna keep this door as precious as I can. And then other folks are, no, I just want to find more spray paint cans. I want to decorate my car more, and I want to, find the cool decal kits and everything in between. It's been really cool.
That is so
Um,
neat. I love that level of detail. You can get like that into it with either I'm going for the more mechanical side, like gear in a sense. That's what these parts are.
yeah,
Or I'm
it's a
all
loadout.
about, yeah, exactly. Or like the look, the flair of my vehicle as I'm
Yeah.
driving the open road. Now, I'm wondering, while you're out there, are there other people around? Can you like pick up people? Are there potential hitchhikers in this place? Or is that like because the radiation, not it can't
You're
happen?
very much like this place is abandoned.
Got it.
Like you're interacting with folks over the radio, and there's a
I
lot of
just gave you a
evidence of
DLC
people out
idea
there.
by the way, but go on.
The Hitchhiker DLC, yeah, that's a terrifying movie. Um, but yeah, it's very much like we focused on the anomalous, and it's part of like it's not a violent game, right? Like we didn't want to build that world.
Mhm.
We wanted to focus on what happened and the kind of mysteries that were left over.
I am gonna so watch Christine when we're done with this call, by the way. I'm getting a hankering for like a good car horror
You
movie.
you got
That's like
Christine, and
that's
there's
like the
there's
one.
from a Buick
From a
8
Buick
by Stephen
8.
King. Yeah, there you
Oh
go.
my
This my sister
god.
got me this.
That's a good
Yeah.
one. It's a good one. That's also an upcoming film, by the way. They're adapting it.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
great.
sure who's doing it, but that'll be interesting. I
Ah,
just saw
yeah,
Christine in 4K at a theater. Like they restored it.
okay.
That movie holds up really well.
I'm a Stephen King fan. The
Yeah.
Dark Tower series I love. Like
Hmm.
that's one of my favorite pieces of just like self-contained fiction.
See, the horror crept in a little bit.
A
If
little
you
bit,
like,
yeah.
if you wanted to or not, it got there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a weird world for
Yeah.
sure.
Before we dive into the rapid fire portion of the interview, what's the roadmap? You're releasing in 2024. What's between now and release look like for the team? What are you guys working on?
I mean, we're real close, right? Like
Hmm.
we're doing, I think, normal things for games at this stage, right? We're
Hmm.
we're testing, we're fixing issues, we're optimizing. Um, it's there's no like, we're not like reworking the story or something like that. That stuff's all in there. Just putting in that final polish and making it the best game we can. And then obviously, the act of releasing the game, right? Which is, because we're out on console, going through steps there to make sure that's
Hmm.
good. And yeah,
And then one final thing before you get on to rapid fire. What do you want people to feel like when they set the controller down and walk away from a session? What should be going on in here, all up in here?
interesting.
What's the
Uh,
takeaway after I put it down for the night and kind of walk away and
the
digest?
two here's for people that don't have the video was heart and head,
Yeah,
right? If
heart,
I
heart and head. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think there's two different parts, right? One is I hope folks really are starting to think about it as their car, right? We putting so much work into making this complex and endearing and interactive companion really for a game, right? And for people to think about it, right? And just have a relationship. And that relationship doesn't necessarily have to be like all, uh roses and happy flowers, right? Like I've definitely we have a kick button in the game. Like
You can kick the car when it pisses you
you
off.
can kick your car when it annoys you. Yes,
It's like a
and
non-buddy like buddy movie in a sense.
yeah,
It's like
and we've got you take care of it as well, obviously. But having a relationship there and like starting to acknowledge it regardless of the nature of it that's exciting to me, right? Because I think a lot of games there's a lot of interesting types of companions and NPCs and stuff like that. And this is our take on that. I think the other side of it is just wanting to come back and see more. Like
Mhm.
because of the types of stories that we think build that relationship better, they're not ones that like obviously we care about the main story. It's a very important part of the game, but the like I like that tale about the handbrake thing, right? Like
Right.
there's more of that out there. We cannot predict that. Like there's the layers on layers of, things that will make your journey your journey. And even on the dev team, we enjoy and still trade these stories constantly. Of, and then this happened. I check out this video. Like I think it's going to be a really good time.
I think projects like yours really represent and sort of embody why I love the indie game scene so much, because it's these ideas I think can't exist in a AAA big budget title, because the ideas are so intense and so experimental, and they just work in this the indie space. And I want to thank you for just pushing gaming to like new and bold places, because again, the idea of a first person survival car game, it's like the first of its kind, I would imagine. I don't think it exists.
It's certainly a very new thing for us. Like it's a
Because
lot
like
of a
who
lot
do
of
you look
exciting
to?
questions. Yeah, it's no, I mean thank you so much. I mean we're super fortunate to be able to make the game. We're very 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 happy with how it's turning out. We're excited for people to play it.
Man, it's, again, like you want to make a Metroidvania, there's like countless examples to look at to see like how I can get mine to sort of mirror and improve. But it's your own thing, it's your own creation, it's just
Yeah,
yours, first of its kind.
it's very very new. Yeah, there's
Uncharted territory.
there's some other like car-esque survival games,
Yeah.
but I don't think nothing quite like ours.
Mhm.
Which we're excited about.
All right. Speaking of exciting, it's time for rapid fire, which is never rapid because I ask like dumb questions that are not like one word answers, but whatever, I don't care. Um,
Okay.
um, the first thing I want to ask you, what scares you? What makes you
Oh,
afraid?
water.
Water?
I'm
Like the
terrified of
beach
water.
or taking a
Yeah, I
shower?
was no, no, dark water that I can't like make my way and like see to the bottom.
Like the
That
deep
scares me.
ocean?
Yeah, sure, any ocean or lake, if it's got
Any
stuff
body
in
of
it,
water?
like really deep pools at night. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan. It creeps me out. I played Subnautica, which a game which I
Oh
love and
God,
hold very dear to my heart. For the
that'll
first
that
20 hours of that game, I was not under the water at night. I refused. I would actually get up on the little dinghy and I would hang out there for like it's like 5 minutes of real time till like the night cycles back around. I did that for 20 hours before they forced me to go to the spooky water anyway. That's the scariest game I've ever played,
the
by the way.
spooky water. Oh, that's high praise. Now, do you play a lot of horror games, or it's just
I've played my fair share,
okay?
especially like the bigger AAA ones. I
Right.
wouldn't say I'm a massive horror game buff,
Hmm.
but yeah, that game messed me up. That was terrifying. I made all kinds of loud noises just getting startled by like a tiny little fish.
And
Yeah.
again, a lot like your game. Like I think that's the intention of that, to invoke that much fear when
Yeah.
you're playing
Yeah, for sure.
Subnautica. Oh, they got you.
I
They
mean,
got you
they
good.
have some very terrifying things in that game that are for I think made to make me have nightmares, like just horrid gigantic fish. But yeah, I love the game. It's absolutely fantastic.
I love when games do that. By the way, like the piano in Mario 64. It's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen as a child. That's not a horror game. It just creeps you out.
Some stuff is inherently scary. Like yeah. But yeah, that would be my answer. Do you have to answer these questions too, or are you just
No,
asking me?
no, nah, it's all you.
Okay.
I shouldn't be talking as much at this point. What is what is your hot take? Give me a hot take of yours.
Hot take.
Yeah, give me a hot take.
To go with the easy one, I
Hmm.
love pineapple and Hawaiian pizza.
Oh
Like
boy, we actually asked that of all of our indie devs on the
did I
show.
skip
Like,
ahead?
what do you
Yeah,
prefer? We're gonna get there, but still, it's interesting.
no, that's my controversial take. I mean, I just like pizza. I
Oh yeah.
sign me up. Like the bar is a tiny little speed bump to get me on board for a pizza pitch.
What is the dumbest way you've ever injured yourself?
Oh, that's easy too. Yeah, when I was I think like a 12 or something, I was playing tennis. I was maybe a little bit older than that, but I definitely smashed myself in the face with a tennis racket doing like a a traditional tennis swing and chipped my tooth.
Lovely.
Um, that or I had a little go-kart when I was younger that was really much just four wheels on a plank and did not have a brake in the traditional sense. It had like a piece of wood with a nail through it that you could like scrape against the ground, and that was the brake. The wheels were slightly spoked, and at one point in time on a gravel road, it wore through, and so I had to grab the wheel while it was moving. That also hurt. Um, I actually probably could keep going on. You should probably ask another question because
Are
I
you just
stopped like four or
accident prone
five
in
more.
general? Is that what it is?
You ask my friends and family. I don't think I am, but I also
Okay.
gave myself a concussion getting into a car. Like
Oh
I just
God.
all kinds of things. So
Oh, there's car
yeah.
horror stories too. I see where it all
Oh my
comes
gosh.
from. It's all in there. It's all deep down repressed. Um, Speaking of things I should ask your family, if I called one of your family members or a significant other or a close friend, and I told them, or let's say the police called them and said
Oh gosh.
Alex has just been arrested, what crime did you commit?
Oh, interesting. They probably think it was something car related, not because I'm a particularly crazy driver or something like that, but because I'm probably just driving around to different spots, like going to the studio, going back to home. That would be a guess. I don't know.
Just go
I
for
don't.
joyrides when you should be
I
going for
do. I mean,
joyrides.
I drive my station wagon around. Like
Mhm.
maybe it broke down and hit something.
Why am I shocked that you have a station wagon?
No, I have an '89 Buick
Love it.
LeSabre, which actually came after the initial idea, but not very long after. Um, yeah.
Very nice. Would you rather have all gold teeth or missing half of your teeth?
Do I get to pick which half of my teeth are missing?
Sure.
Probably all
And
gold
it
teeth
could be
still.
like
It's
it could be like half that way, or the
oh,
upper or the lower.
interesting. No, I think probably gold teeth.
Gold teeth.
Yeah,
Hmm.
heavy, heavy.
Yeah, would be there'd be a fortune in your mouth. But let's get to would you rather. Would you rather always have wet hair or wet socks? You do have some hair in your head, so it might be a challenging question.
I do, and I wear a lot of flip-flops.
Oh,
Um,
with
but I
socks?
don't wear them with socks. No. Uh, I guess wet socks.
Wet socks that you're not going to wear anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
If you were a ghost, would you be more of a Casper friendly ghost or a poltergeist fuck with people kind of ghost?
Definitely mess with people, but
Mm,
definitely not in a horror way.
hmm.
We're talking like move the car keys around all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Just drive them insane slowly.
Maybe even that's too far. Just, keep people on their toes. I like surrealistic fiction.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
actually
stuff that
really good. Yeah, like move a pencil like to the side or move the
yeah,
coffee a little bit to the left or like,
to open a drawer. I
open
don't
a
know.
drawer, rotate something on the desk.
Yeah.
I want you to think back. This is actually a really intense question, so look out. I want you to think back to your entire gaming career, the games you've played over the course of your lifetime. If you could take one game and erase it from your memory and play it again for the first time to re-experience it, the joy and the excitement, which game do you think that would be?
Probably be my favorite game,
Mm-hmm.
which is Life is Strange.
Oh
Like,
wow.
yeah, I have a pretty solid top list, but that's always
Mm-hmm.
been at the very top. And for reasons I feel like are ridiculously biased to me.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Portland. I have friends in Seattle and Portland. I went to I went to Seattle and then came back and have met with friends again. I used to go on trips to the Portland beach,
Hmm.
to the Arcadia Beach. That was like the family beach. There's Arcadia Bay in the game. So like the similarities are a little eerie. I don't think lightning won't strike twice there at that level, but I would love to play that game again. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. I do love that game. I think that was a series that kind of caught me off guard when I first played it. I think I would love it
Yeah.
as much as I did, but that's the best part about games. They catch you off guard. Um, are you a dip your toe in the pool or a cannonball into the pool? Oh, that it's a water question, so maybe I shouldn't have asked you that.
I just avoid I mean, a pool's
Avoid the
fine.
pool
That's
altogether.
fine. Yeah.
All right,
No,
let's.
I would wade in. I'm a wader, like,
Mhm.
what's a couple more inches?
Right.
Yeah.
Um, what is a first world problem you have?
Oh man. I mean, my it's very legitimate. Like my wife and I are currently dealing with car woes, but I mean,
Mm.
to have enough vehicles that we can trade off and stuff like that and deal with the getting one to the shop and stuff like that, you know, that's a privilege for sure.
How many cars do you guys have?
She has a car, I have my actually not horrible for the environment car, and then we have my station wagon sits in the garage and I take it out every now and again.
Nice.
Um, yeah.
Um, what do you what do you think you get the most compliments about?
Hmm. Well, I recently shaved. I had a really big
Oh,
beard for a long time. So as of recent, it's been that. I've always had facial hair since like, I don't know, sophomore year in high school, and it turned into a full beard when I got out of college, and it's been a beard or like much bigger
like a
for
Grizzly
most of.
Adams kind of a thing going on?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like you
It
just
was
crawled
not
out of a
like
cave?
super huge, but like at least it's gone like, 5, 6 inches long for
Uh-huh.
sure. And I shaved it all off and wanted to change, and recently it has been that is like, oh, I can see you smiled now. Like, oh, you have the rest of your
I
face.
was
Oh,
gonna
you have a
say, why
chin.
would you hide
Yeah.
the little dimple there, you know? That's
I
like
like I'd forget that I had it because you don't. Aside from a very strange phase in high school where I insisted on growing a goatee where it would
Mhm.
split
Oh, that was
on
me
its
in high
own
school.
because of the cleft chin. Um, it was mostly just covered up with fur.
I haven't shaved since I was 13 years old. Like I've
Okay, so
gone
you got a couple years
completely.
on me. Yeah,
Yeah, like I
that's
think at a certain point I just decided to just always have facial hair. Be like a little chin strap thing or the goatee, but like I haven't this gets trimmed obviously, but it hasn't been bare since I was a young teenage lad.
yeah, it's
I'd be horrified to look underneath.
I was very curious. Uh, Certainly surprised my partner for sure.
What is something you are awful at but wish you could do better?
Um, Graphic design.
Mm,
I love so much of art and I have a lot of respect for it. Probably because I know about art and I can't do graphic design like,
mhm.
and it's, I composition, color theory, lighting, all of these different aspects that make up like aesthetic, appreciation and content creation, no matter what the medium is. Graphic design, if you told me to come up with a logo, you would be sad. Um, I definitely including the Pacific Drive logo, the Ironwood logo, like all of these, 100% go to an expert. I know what I am not good at, and it is graphic design. And anytime it pops up in my universe again, it's like, oh God, um, definitely that.
Yeah, I wish I could do stuff like that. I tried getting into art and drawing when I was younger. I should have kept at it because I had a real knack for it, but I didn't have the patience to practice and do it more than just here and there in passing. If I kept that, I think could have been big. Anyway,
Not it's not too late.
it's
Like
not too
I mean
late.
I went I didn't do any painting or drawing really till I got to art college.
Mhm.
I went into 3D stuff, which is completely different. I can now paint not terribly now,
Okay.
and I did that to get better at like communicating with other artists, but
You
yeah,
know what? I'll settle for not terribly. I'll take that.
yeah.
Two more questions and we'll get out of here. Would do you think you would win a dance battle or a rap battle?
There's no winners. This, or there's no winning, I should say. Whoever else is there would win.
If you had to choose, like Alex,
Oh
this is the
God.
competition. You got to pick one.
Oh,
Which
maybe
where
dancing.
are the odds? Okay, slightly in your favor.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, um, if you had an opportunity to either revive a long dormant gaming IP or make a sequel for any current and active video game franchise, what comes to mind? What would you want to work on?
Oh, and work on it.
Yeah, like Alex, we're gonna give you the rights to this. Here's a blank check. Make us the game. Your vision, anything goes.
Oh, that is a hell of a loaded question. God, so much stuff has been brought back recently
Yeah, it
too,
has.
which
That's
is
why
buck
it
wild.
comes to mind. Yeah, like I just saw Contra today, came back
Yeah, and
from
this is an F-Zero
way
thing for this
forward. Yeah.
afternoon. Yeah, like what the heck? All of the stuff that is coming to mind is getting a sequel or something has happened
Mm-hmm.
recently. Um, or like even like the cop out answer is like Half-Life just got a Half-Life game. Like what the heck? What's, what's going on?
It's like, damn it. Why is Alex a thing? That could have been my answer. More Half Life.
Yeah, that was a weird game because everyone knew my name.
Oh
Uh, um,
boy.
but yeah, I mean, I'm just like trying to think back on. I would love to see another Jedi Knight game.
Oh man.
Like, but we kind of have that already, right? Like it's
Kinda.
and it's done
Yeah.
by like just a freaking masterful team that like I don't even know if I'd want another Jedi Knight game. I just want that. Maybe TIE Fighter or something, right? Like
Yeah.
another really old. But we also just got a an X-wing or like I can't remember the name of the
Oh,
title,
that's
but we got
Squadron something or other.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's actually pretty hard to pick. I don't think maybe a weird like old ancient bullfrog game like Magic Carpet.
There it is.
Like, yeah, we'll go
You
with that.
you did
There's
it.
definitely not been a Magic Carpet game that I know of, and if there has, someone tell me. Uh, I would love to play it because I played those games way before I knew what the heck they were or how to
Hmm.
play them. That was like foundational early Alex messing around on an old computer.
I love it. And with that, Alex, that's the end. We did it. Look at us. We did
All
a
right.
show. Ain't that amazing? Where can the folks find more about you? Any things you want to plug? We'll put the links in the below area. But
Yeah.
this is your time to like do the little social media shtick.
Cool. Well, I mean, we're on Twitter at Ironwood Tweets, and we're on Steam. You can go and check out Wishlist Pacific Drive now. We're also in the Epic Games Store. Go wishlist it on the PlayStation Store as well. Looking forward to folks checking out the game. Coming out Q1 of 2024.
Is there like an internal release that you guys have planned? You're not.
I can't talk about that.
No, I'm saying, is there something that you have in the brain? Like
There's
we
way
have a
too many
date,
things in my
but
brain.
we haven't.
We're at that stage development. Um, yeah, obviously all that
Okay.
stuff is getting
All right.
figured out, but
All right.
we'll at some point before we're out, we will announce a release date. That
It's
makes
getting
sense.
there. It's getting there.
Logical next stage.
All right. And with that, thank you, Alex. Thank you, listeners. And as always, please be excellent to each other.